Good evening, everybody. I'm RJ Stratton. I'm a retired Navy veteran. I'm also a member of Team Veteran Foundation, a 501c nonprofit organization devoted to veterans and their families. And I wanted to take a couple of minutes tonight to let you know about a historical event that's going on right now across this country, and about a hero of mine and a hero of all the vets out there right now that's taken the time to bring attention to something that needs to be addressed and awareness be brought to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of turn it over to another member of the Team Veteran Foundation that's actually taken a journey that he's going to tell you about. So without any further ado, let me turn it over to Mr. Tom Italian. And Tommy, can you kind of tell us a little bit about the what and the why and how this came about and what got you on this journey?
Sure, Jay. But before I do that, I'd like to extend a thanks to those veterans in this country that made the sacrifice to allow me my freedom. I am not a veteran, but I know where my freedom comes from. And as a result of that, about 2 years ago, I connected with Team Veteran Foundation to help raise money for veterans and veteran causes. One in particular was the suicide rate. And when we started paying attention to this about a year or so ago, the rate was actually, suicide rate in the country was about every 80 minutes a veteran committed suicide. And that's lowered, which means that the amount of suicides in the country are higher, and it's now at every 65 minutes. So we were trying to figure out how could we address it, how could we raise funds to make the country aware of this. And so around June 10th, what normally happens to me is if I get a push from the Lord, I get a visit from the Holy Spirit that told me that I should be taking a cross-country bike trip on my 10-speed bike to raise awareness. That traveling 2,700 miles is a small sacrifice to pay homage and awareness to our veterans regarding the suicide rate, and to raise that awareness. So on June 21st, I got on my 10-speed bike and I left Flagstaff with my pull-along, that weighs about 100 pounds, and left for Lynn, Massachusetts. Lynn is a population of about 200,000 people, and I'll arrive there probably around August 11th or 12th. So far I've traveled from Arizona to New Mexico to into a little portion of Oklahoma, into Kansas, Illinois now, in Indiana, in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then into Rhode Island and up into Connecticut and Massachusetts. And the purpose is to raise awareness for the veteran suicide rate. The motto that we have at Team Veteran is that the first cost of freedom is supporting our veterans, and we stick by that, and we believe that 100%. So that and the precious cargo that I'm carrying with me, called the Statute of Responsibility, is the dual purpose for the visit. And the Statute of Responsibility pays respects to our veterans as well. But so far I've traveled about 1,500 miles across the country. And if you go to the teamveteran.org webpage, you'll see the daily blog that I have, and the towns that I've visited, and the people that I've seen, and the pictures that we've taken, especially those pictures taken holding the Statute of Responsibility. The people that I've met have really embraced us. We've got family members supporting us across the country. There's a woman in Cambridge, Ohio that I'm going to be meeting, and we're going to stop, and we've sculptured the route so that we could swing down. She called us once she heard about the trip, and asked if we'd stop by. And she sort of confirmed something that I was feeling along the way, certainly in Santa Fe and Las Vegas, New Mexico, that, you know, I was riding not alone, but I was riding with 9,000 veterans. And that her message to me was she knew that her son Douglas was pedaling with me. And I've gotten that confirmation from another mother from Arizona as well. So that's sort of the what and the why for the journey that I'm taking.
You said something about another precious cargo, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Statute of Responsibility was born out of a book written by Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of Auschwitz. He's a noted psychologist and spoke many times after he was released, he got his freedom, about the Statute of Responsibility. The name of the book is Man's Search for Meaning, and some high schools now make it mandatory reading, because it deals with the responsibility we have as citizens to each other, and obligations that we have to each other as well. And that responsibility and obligation is embraced every day by our veterans. So the Statute of Responsibility, Viktor Frankl envisioned it, but only had a portion of it. He carved out a wooden hand, because when people were dying in Auschwitz, they were reaching for the sky, and he often wondered why. There was an artist named Gary Lee Price. He's a sculptor from Utah that put two hands together, a military grasp, two hands around the wrist, and it is a vertical depiction of that, and called it the Statue of Responsibility. It was either, you know, divine hand helping humans or military people helping military up. And when he showed it to Viktor Frankl's widow, she immediately broke down, because what she said to him was that you've got the other hand, and she took him in to show him Victor's carving of the one hand of the statue, of just the hand reaching out. And she gave her blessings to the Statue of Responsibility. Well, as a result of that, it's going to be built on the West Coast, and it will be 300 feet tall, the same height as the Statue of Liberty. And if you go to the Facebook page of the Statue of Liberty, you'll see a picture of the Statue of Responsibility, because they've accepted it now. And it will be made out of stainless steel, and around the statue will be placards for different, honoring different veterans, different wars, that kind of thing. Because the Statue of Responsibility is going to be built for veterans, or in the name of veterans, those who have made that ultimate sacrifice of responsibility by giving their lives to this country and their freedom. And the equation is that with liberty on the East Coast and responsibility on the West Coast, we have our freedom. And that's the one thing that we cherish the most in this country, is our freedom, our right, my right to pedal across the country to honor something. So I think that is probably the precious cargo that you're talking about, that you're asking about. And it's been well received throughout the country.
Yeah, I've heard people actually getting very emotional when you bring that out on the beat.
Yeah. There was a fella in Bernalillo, New Mexico, whose father was in the baton, the soldiers left behind. And when I pulled it out, he started weeping immediately. And then he blessed me by giving me a flag from his father that resembled the baton.
I've heard there's people that aren't even vets, though, that are being touched by the same statue and the mission that you're on.
That's true. That's true. We've had many people just today alone, when we brought it up in church, there was a heck of a guy who, when I talked to him about it, actually started weeping, as well as one of the Harley dealerships that we were at just recently. they embraced it as well, and it does bring emotion. It does, when you see it, it does give you a tremendous feeling. And when we brought it to Kansas City for the National World War I Monument, we've had soldiers holding it, and they were embracing it as well.
Wow. So now, and I honestly give credit where credit's due. I know the VA's got a lot they're tasked with. They can't possibly do this, and I know it's gonna cost a lot of money for all these programs and stuff for the vets and their families, and try to help put a prevention to suicide, or at least an answer to it. How can, I mean, you were talking about some of the money that had been raised for other things and stuff like that, and who could actually help support this, and where some of the money could possibly come from.
Well, I think the VA is overtasked, and I think that especially with 300,000 soldiers coming home in the really short future, it's going to be even more tasked. And this awareness trip across the country, one is to stop it from happening again by raising enough funds so that we are able to deal with the soldiers that are coming home, because they're punching the clock and coming home, and they still have a lot of stuff, emotional stuff they're dealing with that they faced in the war. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the soldiers that have committed suicide, it's going to take a heck of a lot of money to help those survivors. There are programs out there that are doing that now, and they're just not getting enough money. So I look at it this way, that people who respond, as recently happened to me when I spoke to a fellow about the suicide rate, he put his head down. That's unacceptable. You need to step forward now. This country needs to embrace our veterans. We cannot have them treated like the Vietnam veteran when they come home. So I think that what I've coined is the phrase that the 93% civilian population, the hands of the angels, need to help the 7% military population. And by that, I mean they can go to teamveteran.org and make donations. They can buy the t-shirts like they see you wearing. But I also think that we need corporate, goodwill. We need corporations to step forward. Team Veteran has a way of creating a paradigm shift in funding, and we can, with one corporation, we can raise millions.
So what are you saying with the corporation? You want them to contact Team Veteran?
Yes, I do. I think it's essential that they do. It's paramount that they do. In order for us to solve this problem, I'll give you an example. When the attack on Boston, the Boston Marathon, that community raised $60 million in a short time. The problem with the 9,000 men that have committed suicide, it's 1, 2, 3, it's all over the country. If 9,000 men were injured all at once, then we'd have this awareness across the country. Well, because it's 1 person, 2 person, 3 persons spread out across this country, there's no awareness to it. When 3,500 people were killed in the towers when they came down, we wrapped ourselves around the flag. We need to wrap ourselves around the flag on this issue and not forget those heroes, because they are heroes. Those people are heroes, and we can't forget their children. Mothers' homes are being foreclosed on because their husband committed suicide. Family members are now committing suicide as a result of it. We need to provide college tuitions for those children. They cannot be forgotten. And I think that that's why we need corporate help along the way.
Wow, awesome. So a lot of people are asking, what can I do? I mean, how would you answer most of these people out there?
Well, I think you need to send a message to your corporate headquarters and asking them to support us. I think from Illinois till I get to Lynn, Massachusetts, we need to coin the phrase, I support the ride. I think we need to support through the communities as I drive through the communities. I think you need to go to Team Veteran and make a donation. I think there's a donation page there. For instance, the money that we raised in Lansing, Kansas, in the Leavenworth area, we donated to Martha Moore, who I'm going to swing by and see in Cambridge, Ohio, because she wants to meet me. I want to meet her as well, because her son is a hero and I want her to know that. So, again, the 93% need to support the 7% military. We can't forget them. And there's 300, I know I'm being redundant, but there's 300,000 coming home. We need to handle it that
There's a
way.
lot of them out there I've noticed along the ride too that are reaching out to you. Would you, I mean, what would you tell them to have them call in if they needed support? Just to let them know somebody out there cares?
Yep, interesting, when I was coming out of Mexico, Missouri, they had done a great article there, and along the way I was getting beeps, 12, 13, 14 people beeping as I was pedaling the road. I had a guy come across the road who gave me a $20 bill and said, I don't have much time to talk, but I like what you're doing. We need that fever to catch on across the country and do those sort of things.
Wow.
So that we can raise
So-
enough. I mean, we have great ideas about how we can solve the problem. And we need to raise enough money to do that.
So we only got a couple minutes here. I don't want to make this too lengthy for everybody's sake, but what would you say in closing this out? What would you like to, the message you'd like to send out to people right now in closing this video out?
Well, I'd like to say support the ride. I'd like to say send a message across the country, light up the way for those communities that I'm going to be through. Embrace this ride, this awareness. Let's show those families in this country that we mean business, because when we get behind a movement nationally, we solve it.
Yes.
And this isn't any different. This is better that we solve this problem than allow them to come home and continue to do what they're doing. The families, the relatives, they need our support. And we need to step up, because they went and signed that blank check for our freedom. That's what we need to do.
Awesome. Well, folks, that was pretty much it. Feel free to tune in later videos as you can follow Tommy and further in his journey. Listen to excerpts from his journey. Go to the website, teamveteran.org, and just look for future posts on YouTube.